Well, listen to what it says here. It says that they're at Guantanamo Naval Base, Cuba. Now, this was way before the September 9/11 attack, but they were already preparing. They gave these people, they used them as human guinea pigs and put ankle bracelets with microchips on their ankles so they could track them around the prison camp. And they call this system, so with one computer in one control room, they know where every prisoner, by number, where they're at any given time. You go to the bathroom, they know where you're at. You're eating a meal, they know where you're at. You're on a work detail, they know where you're at. You're trying to escape. They can see you on the computer because of this ankle bracelet with the microchip in it. Let me tell you what the name of this is. It says that this system, it's a human tracking system, but listen to this. It says this is called the Deployable Mass Population Identification and Tracking System. Mass Population Identification and Tracking System. Now let's get to concentration camps themselves. Do they exist? Here, the Patriot Report, back in 1999, in fact, over 3 years ago, sent me this. They said they have found a concentration camp in Nevada, and they believe it's one of 300 being built across America. And look at the guard towers, and you can see the pictures aren't so clear, but we have a water tower, we have a guard tower, and of course we have the infamous barbed wire. This is back during the Clinton era. It shows that Fort Dix, one of the largest Army sites in the world, has now been turned into the largest federal prison. The largest federal prison. I wrote to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I asked them how large they were. They said, we have over 12 and a half, they wrote back. They told me, they admitted, we have over 12 and a half square miles that's kept, encompassed by barbed wire fences. 12 and a half square miles. How many tens of thousands of people could they put in such a place? Governor Ann Richards, when she was governor of Texas, here's a news item that came out from the Associated Press, said she was touring a prison, the Chase Naval Air Station in Beeville, Texas. It's the state of Texas' first military installation to be converted to a prison because prisons aren't being built fast enough. Prisons, maybe. Then we have the underground detention camps. My friends, they actually have underground detention camps. And this article from the International Free Press, Serge Monast, remember I told you about that gentleman before, who now has been, I believe, was murdered. He located many underground sites. A man named Richard Sauter, a PhD, wrote this book. I have a copy of it, Underground Bases and Tunnels. What is the government trying to hide? Amazing stories of entire cities. Did you know that there are over 96 cities located underground? Subtropolises, secret installations, deep underground. Here's an article from Time magazine, way back in 1991. It says, Doomsday Hideaway, Mount Weather, carved into a Virginia ridge more than 3 decades ago. A secret bunker still stands ready to shelter U.S. leaders from a nuclear attack. They say that this underground city, and that's what it is, it's not a bunker, it's a huge facility underground. Thousands can live down there. 48 miles from Washington, D.C. They have offices, computer networks. They even have an underground pond holding drinking water, they say, and a television and radio studio. You say, well, that's in case our president, our national leaders need to be protected in case of a nuclear attack. Listen, my friends, there are 96 of these hidden bases. Up in Canada, here's a story out of Maclean's News magazine. An eerie tour of Canada's past, but they're still maintaining. The Cold War is over. There's no nuclear threat from China or Russia, they say, but guess what? They still maintain these places. And as I told you, many of the military installations in the United States are being converted to prisons, or I believe to detention centers and concentration camps. In a book called Future Fire, about military bases and technology, there is a drawing of an underground combat operations center. And you can see floor after floor in some of these underground bases and sites. Now remember, many of these, including all of the Minuteman missile sites throughout the United States, Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri, and others, have been closed down. But there they are. Could they not be converted to concentration camps to hold American dissidents and political prisoners? And I'm talking about American citizens, not the Al-Qaeda. We know, of course, that the United States, according to a new report, is building over 200 camps for Al-Qaeda and other prisoners. We know that at Guantanamo in Cuba, you've seen, I'm sure, the news clips about over 200 Al-Qaeda prisoners that were brought from Afghanistan by the Bush administration, and are still in prison there without charges, without any kind of court hearings. They're just kept there indefinitely as our guests. First they were put in what looked like cages, and now they built some kind of a camp system for them. Guantanamo, Cuba. There where Fidel Castro is. He's our pal. We don't have to worry about him breaking in there, into that and letting the prisoners go, do we? Here's a letter from a lady who wrote to me. I cannot reveal the name of it, but she told me about the underground subtropolis that is in the heartland of America, in Kansas. And guess what? She said they actually had a program on this on the Discovery Channel. The program was called Invisible Places, and it talked about miles and miles and miles of a secret, what is a secret to most people, underground city. And it's evidently built by the billionaire Hunt brothers. Quite interesting. Some years ago, just a few years ago in fact, in the early 1990s, south of Dallas, the federal government spent hundreds of millions of dollars to build huge tunnels under the ground. Here's a picture. This is, my friends, this is out of U.S. News and World Report, November 6, 1995.